This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we have as our guest tonight one of the top guys in the state, one of my favorite people, and the leading candidate for state auditor in the Republican primary, which is a wide open job for this year we're in 2022. And we're right in the election year. It's a big year, and the state auditor's job is wide open because Jim Ziegler, the incumbent state auditor, has served his two full 4-year terms as state auditor. So the auditor's job and the Secretary of State job are wide open. No incumbent in there. I guess all of them are open. But Rusty Glover is extremely well qualified for the position of state auditor. Y'all see his name in the Republican primary on May 24th. He was a one-term state representative for 4 years from Mobile County and a 3-term, 12-year veteran of the state Senate. So he knows how the legislature and how the government works. And as I said, he's probably the leading candidate for state auditor in the primary, and a good friend of mine. Rusty, good to have you on the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Steve.
I knew of Rusty for years and years before we ever met. His aunt, Billy Glover, was an educator like a lot of his family members were, but she and I were friends in college.
Yep.
We were friends. She was a CO at Alabama, and we were real good friends. And we were fresh. Billy got homesick. We were freshmen. She didn't want to go home to Leroy. Y'all's family roots go back to Leroy.
That's right, Leroy in Washington County. Sure does. In fact, my grandfather, her father, my dad's father, served in the Alabama Senate.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And he served one term there. And
what was his name?
Ben Glover. And
what years was he in the state?
He was in there during the first Folsom term.
And from 46
to 50, yes.
They just had one county then. Washington had their own state senate.
No, he had all of Choctaw, Washington. I think he may have had a little bit of Clark. I'm not sure.
Now that was your daddy's
father.
Yeah. And Billy's.
Yeah, it was
Billy was the baby of that family.
She was very much so, and what's interesting is his father was also a state senator from Washington County, and back then
Ben Glover, who was in the Senate from 46 to 50,
his father was in there for one term and died in office.
What was his name? You don't remember?
I never met him. He died when my dad was.
Well, Ben Glover was passed away when you were born, wasn't he?
Well, no, actually, I knew him when I was 6 years old. He died when I was 6.
Did he have another profession besides being a senator?
Yeah, he was a farmer and had a shoe store.
In what town?
In Jackson, right across the river from Leroy.
Yeah.
And
Jackson's not in Washington County. It's in.
Yeah, it's right across the river. Clark County is and are separated by the Tom Bigby. And actually, my dad's maternal grandfather was in the House representing Clark County from Thomasville.
What was his name? Do you remember? Can't remember his name.
No, but I know his sons. His sons were Dovey Fair Anderson. They named the football stadium in Thomasville after him. And his son, they named the football stadium at Vestavia Hills after him, Buddy Anderson.
He was a coach there for a long time.
Yes, he just retired.
So he was, but the coach at Vestavia is kin to you.
Yes, he's my dad's first cousin.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Alabama's a big front porch.
It is. It is.
You know, Nell Harper Lee said that. Or no, the lady who Selma said that.
Right.
What was her name? But she wrote stories and everything. She said Alabama's a big front porch. As long as I live, I realize it is.
It certainly is. It certainly is. And I think it was interesting. My grandfather, my dad's dad, he was in there. Of course, they met only every other year in the legislature.
Right,
only met every other year, and there was a lot of concern that a lot of folks wanted to see Alabama and Auburn renew their rivalry. They had stopped playing in 1907, and because either it was meal money or violence of fighting the
I think it was over money.
Bill money, and so there's a lot of interest in getting them back together, and there had been some resolutions urging them to get back to playing, and a lot of those resolutions, as many of the resolutions today in the legislature, are toothless. They don't hold a lot of water. But his resolution that he put forth threatened to take away school funding from Alabama and Auburn unless they renewed the rivalry. And he was able to get co-sponsors on the resolutions from both sides of the aisle. Now, of course, both sides of the aisle didn't mean Republican and Democrat. Everyone was a Democrat. But you were either a pro-Folsom senator or a anti-Folsom senator.
It was that divided. Like
it was that divided, and he was an anti-Folsom, but he had several members of the pro-Folsom faction to sign on as co-sponsors. And before they could pass it, the two presidents, along with the board of trustees of both universities, decided to get together and work out a compromise. And then next year was the first Iron Bowl in many years.
I'll be doggone. Rusty, now were you born in Mobile and Washington County?
I was born in Mobile. My dad, he coached in Repton and then Chatham, and then he was coaching at Murphy High School. And my mother was coaching. It was a PE teacher at Murphy. They met, and they got married in '63, and I was born in '66. And so I was born in Mobile. And
you only child?
I have a brother that's 13 months younger. And we both followed the footsteps of my dad and mother. I taught history and coached a little bit, but I taught history at Mary Montgomery High School in West Mobile County for 25 years. And my brother taught math at Baker High School. Baker and Mary Montgomery are the third and fourth largest schools in the state. And but my brother, he's retired, and now he teaches in Mississippi at Hurley, East Central High School, and does some coaching. And but I retired, and I had a choice to make. I could retire or I could stay in teaching and leave the legislature. I decided to continue in the legislature, and so I...
So you couldn't do...
Couldn't do both.
They changed it.
Right.
What year was that change?
2011.
There were a lot of educators when I was in the House.
Yes, there were a lot of...
I was there from 82 to 98, and
right.
there were a good many educators.
Right, and when I first got there, I was only classroom teacher. A lot of them were administrators,
right.
Or some of them were not even in the education field, but then got education jobs.
Right.
And I think that was really the problem that people
really
were seeing, and was a need for the change because of that. I just hate to see, that one profession being penalized, and other professions not. But there was a problem there that needed to be adjusted, and so I had to choose, and I chose to stay in the legislature and retire.
Rusty, your whole family's been in education.
Yeah,
Let's see, your daddy and mama were, and you and your brother both were.
My dad.
Billy was a teacher.
My dad's three sisters were.
All of them were. Yeah. But now, tell me this: where did you go to? Would you grew up and went to Murphy High School?
I went to BC Rain High School.
BC Rain High School.
I went to Faulkner and played on a baseball scholarship.
What position you play?
Pitcher. Oh, I signed as a catcher. I never pitched until I got to college, and I wound up pitching at Faulkner, and I threw submarine, so it didn't put a lot of pressure on my arm, so I was able to pitch double headers. I pitched a couple complete game double headers.
Because you threw that one.
Yes, and I got All-State my sophomore year, and I signed at South Alabama and pitched 2 years there, and pitched in 48 games at South Alabama.
You finished at South Alabama, and then went right into school teaching.
Right into school teaching. That's right.
Now, did you meet your wife at South Alabama?
No, she actually when I was teaching and coaching my first year, her little brother was on my baseball team that I coached, and that's how the boys on the team set us up. We went on our first date March 16th, and I proposed May 11th, and we were married August 4th.
The same year?
Same year. We sure did. Been married 31 years now.
Good. Now, you tell me about y'all children?
Yes, we have two children, a daughter born in '92 and one in '97.
Two girls.
Two girls. And I have two grandsons and two son-in-laws.
They in Mobile?
In Wilmer, Tanner Williams area.
Yes. Same area. Well, let me ask you this. When you left the Senate, what was the thing you missed the most?
The camaraderie, pretty much. I really enjoyed the caucus, and really, when I decided to run for lieutenant governor, I decided that in 2014, and it was like a 4-year campaign. I worked extremely hard all over the state.
I remember that.
And it was
so you know the state.
Oh, I know the state, and it was just, and things were going really good until my two opponents drowned me in money, and I was not able to.
They did
to keep
too.
Up. It was the most expensive race in the history of that office.
Yeah.
And I was able to do sparse television that very few people saw, and that pretty much cut my political throat on that election. So, I was but that was one of the main things. I really wanted to serve. I'd served 3 terms. My 2 predecessors in the Senate, Hap Myers and Ann Bedsole, had served 3 terms and got out. And so I was serving 3 terms and getting out. But I wanted to stay in the body because I do enjoy the camaraderie, and I think that the skills I had would have been just right for the lieutenant governor, but God had another plan, and so I've been been very busy the last 4 years, or 3.5 years. I worked at Gulf State Park. It was an 1.5-hour drive each way from my house, but I worked giving a presentation to the snowbirds, promoting the park around the area. It was a short-term position, but
it takes an 1.5 to get to Gulf Shores.
Gulf Shores from my house.
It's no interstate.
It was interstate, but it's also
still.
Highway 59, crowded Highway 59. But I enjoyed that. But I found another position that I like even much better, and that is with the ABC board, with Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, the ALEA, and the District Attorneys Association, and we go around the state, all the state, doing these school assembly programs about underage drinking. And I've actually visited a little over 620 junior high, middle schools promoting the program, and we put on about 150 programs a year, and I've really enjoyed that. And when you're running for office in a Republican primary, most of that you have certain areas that you go to, and quite often because that's where the Republican primary voting precincts are. Whereas when I was going to all 67 counties, all the schools, I was going down roads and areas I've never been to, and I really enjoyed the scenery and meeting the people in all parts of Alabama, not just the big Republican primary boxes. And so I've really enjoyed it the last 3 years, 2.5 years, working with that group, and I think it does really well. I think the mothers, they'll get up and talk about what happened to their child, encouraging the kids to stay away from the stuff until they can make a legal decision at 21, and I really enjoy that position.
Well, it's good to get around the state too.
Yes, it is.
See parts of the state you never have seen.
It really is. It really is.
That's really an asset back having run statewide before, and also getting around the state as far as knowing where people live and everything, how they think. We have a very diverse, beautiful state, don't we?
It is. It is absolutely beautiful.
I've traveled the state when I had my book out, and then I did a tour of the state a couple times. I see them on my papers, visiting my papers around the state, and it's people don't realize the diversity we have. You go from the mountains of Chiahaw to the beaches of Gulf Shores, and the Black Belt's so different from the Tennessee Valley. What's happened in Huntsville, Rusty, in even your lifetime?
It's amazing. You look at the demographic. You go to Wikipedia, and it'll show the census results in the last 100 years, and you can just see how large the communities and the cities have grown within a 10-year period. It's just amazing.
It is.
It's just amazing. And I'll tell you another thing amazing that kind of hits me there. Is there's a town in northeast Alabama, Bryant, in Jackson County. And I was up there visiting their schools back in the summer. And I said, I'm going to go to the maps and just see how far I could go north in the same distance from my house. And I found that Cincinnati, Ohio is closer to Bryant than my house.
Are you serious?
No kidding. You could get to Cincinnati with less miles than it would take you to get to my house.
And probably quicker because you go interstate all the way.
That's right. That's right.
I never
thought that. I always thought that about the Shoals area. If you go into the Shoals, to say to Dothan, that you could get probably Chicago or somewhere near
Isn't that
Indiana
interesting about that?
quicker. But it's yes, Bryant is closer to Cincinnati than it is to Mobile County.
As I mentioned, I used to visit my papers all over the state. I mean, almost every paper and throughout the state. And I had 2 papers in the county you're talking about, Jackson, of course, the Scottsboro Daily Sentinel, pretty big newspaper. Right. But up in the corner in the Stevenson area was a little paper called the North Jackson Progress. Guy used to set the type a week ahead of time for the weekly paper. And I went up there, it was a fall time of the year, and coming down that mountain between Stevenson, which is right down on the Chattanooga, Tennessee line, I guess, to Scottsboro. Rusty, North Carolina ain't got a thing on that area in the fall of the year.
I know.
That was the prettiest drive I've ever seen in my life. The leaves, it was late October, early November afternoon.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself then, I said, this is the prettiest part. And then you go all the way to the Gulf Shore, you know?
Sure. I mean, you go up to Mentone on that
it's beautiful.
Colors
Unbelievable.
Day or whatever. It's just, it's beautiful. And a lot of the state, I mean, you go through Jefferson County and you'll see just, it's some beautiful leaves up and down around the mountains. And all.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're in Section in Jackson County, I've driven that little road from Scottsboro to Fort Payne many times. And that curve, right when you're making that curve before you go across the Tennessee, you can look over and see the boats and ships coming through down, and that view is just it's amazing.
You know, when I was growing up, there were several go-to events statewide that have changed now. Scottsboro had a first Monday. Do you ever heard of the tradition of a first Monday trade day in Scottsboro?
I've heard of some trade days, but
it was a go-to event. Every first Monday, everybody came off the mountains and came to Scottsboro, and they traded knives. It was, and every politician went there every month. George Wallace went there every first Monday all 4 years. It was that. I mean, everybody come from North Alabama to go to that first Monday, and also Mule Day in Winfield. Was
and there's
big.
Also a Mule Day in Ider, also up in DeKalb County, because that used to be in the budget because of Senate Pro Tem.
Ider stole it. Was really started in Winfield had it first.
Yes.
They stole Winfield's Mule Day, but then there was a Terry family union up in Moulton in Lawrence County. Everybody in that county is kin to each other, and they came from a family called the Terrys, and those were must go to events. Now, I'm telling you something that's growing. Nathaniel Ledbetter and Steve Livingston have an event on 3rd, 4th of July. Have you been to that thing they have up there?
Is that potato festival?
Yeah, they have something. No, it's a 4th of July thing.
Yeah.
They have a big parade up there. That's getting to be like a traditional thing.
Oh yeah, and it draws a lot of statewide candidates.
It does.
Also. Actually, I think that one occurred like about 2 weeks before I decided to run.
July 3rd
it
was.
Yep, it was 2 weeks before, and so I was not at that event, but I remember it from the years past. And of course, Fife also has the UFO days. That's an interesting day.
Oh yeah.
But
well, Rusty, tell me something. But tell our viewers about the auditor's job, what all it does, and what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
How many employees does Ziegler's office have? On about 20 or 25?
I think it's less than that. I think it's like 9 or 10 or so. It's been some cutbacks because the legislature has cut the budget down quite a bit over the last few years. You know,
makes old Ziegler mad.
A little bit. But you know, it's called the auditor's office, but it's really more of an inventory. You're taking inventory of state property worth $500 or more, including. We should also include some phones and some tablets that may have sensitive data on it, and I think the taxpayers, I think it's they deserve to know that this property and objects that are paid for by their tax money is not being taken home or lost, and so it's keeping up with that, and the state auditor also sits on the Board of Adjustment, so those who have grievances, financial grievances against the state, can get their fair day. And of course, you got to help you be a part of the process of making the decision. Yes, those people who have the financial grievances should have just fair compensation, but not overly compensated, because that is the taxpayer money. But also, and what I emphasize the most, and I think it gets most people's attention, is that each county has a board of registrars. They have 3 board of registrars. The governor picks one. The Agriculture and Industry picks one, and the state auditor picks one. And so picking people who will be, and selecting people who will be diligent in making sure our election laws are passed. There's all kinds of accusations, and actually they found proof that there were a lot of irregularities going on around the country in the past election, and we want to make sure that doesn't come to Alabama, although it's happened in the past. But making sure that people who are deceased or off the rolls, making sure that people who are incarcerated, who are ineligible, legally ineligible to vote, nobody's voting for them, or also keeping a good eye on people as they register to vote, that you don't have individuals registering multiple times. Because the last thing that you and I want, or any people listening and watching want, is for them to go to the polls and take off work to go to the polls, stand in line, and to have the idea that someone did something sneaky to counteract their vote. And so that's something I'll be working hard on, is making sure we have good people. And I think most of the people, if not overwhelming majority of those that are sitting on those board of registrars, are doing a very good job. And that's one of the reasons why Alabama was noted as having one of the most secure elections states in the nation this past election, because that they are working diligently to make sure that things are being the laws are being adhered to in those local county offices.
Rusty, so really you inventory everything, but people have forgotten about the fact that I'd forgotten about the auditors on the Board of Adjustments. And they also appoint people to the Board of Registrars in each of the 67
Except
counties.
for Birmingham. Jefferson County, they had a local amendment, a constitutional amendment. I think their county commissioners select the Board of Registrars in Jefferson, but 66 of the 67 counties.
You know, remember when you were in the legislature, how you spent half the day fighting over watching Jefferson County file their local bills. We'd sit there all day long and just watch Jefferson County just have a food fight over some local issue, because our viewers might know this, but our Constitution is so outdated, antiquated, that everything has to go through the legislature to get passed.
And I remember some of that in the Senate. There was a water board bill in the Senate, but that was a statewide bill. But as far as local legislation, we did see some problems in the House when I was in the House, and unfortunately, one of our freshman House members from Mobile County got involved and voted in one of those
by accident, on purpose.
On purpose, thought he was doing the right thing, and there was some retaliation by one of the members of the Jefferson delegation that really cost Mobile some local legislation later on.
Isn't that interesting? That's how you do it. You know, when we'd sit there, I was a one county person. I was on representative.
Me too. One county for me. That's enough.
I didn't have, but I'm saying I was the only person from my county. Right. And I came from a rural county, Pike County, and I was on representative. And everybody I sat, they used to sit us geographically. Like when I was there, everybody in Mobile sat together in the same area. Everybody in Jefferson sat together. Etowah had a group. Tuscaloosa, they would sit together. But those of us who were from southeast Alabama, we all sat together, but we only had one county. Like who sat around me was Jimmy Holly from Coffee, Seth Hammett from Covington, Pete Turner from Auburn, and we'd sit there and I'd look at Seth and say, Seth, well, I've had a Pike County delegation meeting. We're all together today. Yeah. We're not going to have any fights about anything.
Yeah, and when I was in the House, it was similar to that. Of the 10 representatives that represented Mobile, one was Mobile and Baldwin, 9 of the 10 sat together, and Baldwin sat together.
Okay,
so I think there's a lot of that still goes on in the House. But in the Senate, I sat in the North Alabama section. Everybody sitting around me was North Alabama.
There was no geographic.
No geographic. And when we had the BP bill in the special session, it was pretty tense in my little area of the Senate.
I bet it was. Hey, Rusty, what about, have you and your wife ever been tempted to move over to Baldwin County? There's been so much, everybody in Mobile wants to move over to Baldwin County. Is that why the growth, is it just people leaving Mobile, or are the industries coming in there, or retirees coming to, a lot of retirees are going to Fairhope, aren't they?
Oh, I tell you, they are. Fairhope, yeah, they are receiving more people from northern states. A lot of them are coming in from northern states, but it's amazing growth. Baldwin County increased in the last census 61,000 people. That's over a House member. That's over one House member in one decade. It was amazing. I think Senator Elliott, that has South Baldwin, his district was increased 41,000 people. So he had to lose 41,000 people from his district, and that affected Mobile, because some of Mobile had to move into that area too.
Well, I've tipped my hat to Chris Pringle, who did on the real Porch, because what you just saying, if you add 61,000 people to Baldwin County, that's a new House district.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, he had to work not to add Republican seats.
Right, that's correct.
So when they go to court with that thing, it's like,
Sure.
Judge, look, we could have added 3 seats. We made it diligent not to take any of these Democratic seats away.
And I tell you, he was the perfect choice for the House to do that project, because he's been working on that type of, back in the 90s when he was in the House. He ran for Congress. When I ran for Congress in 2002 and lost, and he was out.
Was he in that same race?
Mm-hmm. He was out for 8 years and came back, and he's taken the bull by the horns, as they say, and he's worked very hard, and he's very bright, very good at the districts. I mean, he's worked very hard.
Pringle came there when I was there. I sort of mentored him. He was my little buddy.
Yep.
I said, I guess, let me get you on the health committee.
Yeah.
I said, that was a money raising committee.
Yeah, we actually ran against each other for Senate in 2006.
Is that right?
But we were friends before then, and we're friends now.
Was he in the House, or you?
Actually, I was in the House, and he had been out because he had run for Congress. The only reason I made it to the House
was this last time his second run for Congress?
Yes, yes, but it was it was an off year as far as the legislature, so he could stay in the legislature. But I got to the House kind of on a different trail, because I ran for Congress in 2002 and didn't do that well in the primary, but J.E. Turner, the state representative from my area, passed away on Halloween morning before the general election, and so they were able to get me on the ballot. Actually, we were still under the pre-clearance part of the Voting Rights Act, so they had to go, Jeff Sessions, the senator at the time, had to go to John Ashcroft, the Attorney General, to expedite the process, because we had 5 days to get me on the ballot, or it would have been the Democrat to win, and it was a 90% Republican district. So I was able to get on the ballot. Fortunately, instead of having to do a write-in deal, it was the last year that we had the voting machines where you punched. I think it was Mobile and one other county still had the voting machines where you punch the buttons. And so they were able to put a piece of tape with my name over all the voting machines in that precinct, those 3 or 4 precincts, and that's how I was elected the first time.
Good man. Folks, our time's up. Our guest tonight has been former State Senator Rusty Glover from Mobile, who is a candidate for a state auditor in the May primary. Y'all will see his name on May 24th in the state auditor's race. We thank Rusty for being with us. We thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune in again next week for Alabama Politics. Thank y'all. Thank you, Rusty.
Maybe next